This story begins with our injured protagonist called Ayn. Ayn stands at the edge of a cliff, blames himself for being so weak, but is relieved that it was all going to end pretty soon. So Ayn throws himself off the cliff, wondering if there was any point in living in the first place. In his last moments, Ayn looked back to how he was bullied and treated like garbage by his teammates. In the end, he wasn't able to accomplish anything. A while earlier, we see in a dungeon a man being attacked by a rat-like creature, but he was able to fend it off easily with the help of a female magic user. She launched a fireball spell that finishes off the creature. With that done, they celebrated themselves for taking down the beast and called on the trash picker of the party, who happens to be our protagonist. But Ayn tries to tell the man that his name is not Trash Picker as he falls to his face from the load he was carrying. But his teammates laughed and made fun of him for being so weak. But Ayn apologized for slowing them down as he gets up to do his job. "Just appraise this damn thing already, appraiser," Zoid said. With a stern look on his face, Ayn felt unlucky. In a world where heroes are born and not made, at birth the goddess of light gives them jobs and the goddess of darkness grants them skills, which by training your skills, you can hone a plethora of abilities whereby jobs are passed down from generations and can never be changed. Jobs are divided into 3 tiers. The topmost are rare classes, which only few are born with it, like military strategists and merchants. The second are high common classes. This includes people like Zoid and Jolene. They're swordsmen and mages with others that can fight. Lastly, the lowest tier is the low common classes. These are peasants and appraisers like Ayn, who aren't fit for battle, in a world where jobs are passed down from generations. However, since Ayn lost his parents at an early age, he wasn't able to inherit his family job and has no other option but to take the path available for low common class, which is to become an adventurer. And his dream was striking it rich, though it was impossible at the time, seeing that the only monsters his party could take on was low ranks, and that was not going to cut it. He then uses his appraise skill on the beast and saw that the only part worth something was its giant incisors. After failing to yoink off the monster's tooth, Ayn asked for assistance, but Zoid became irritated, and Jolene reminded him that picking up trash was his job. As Zoid gets more angry, he throws a rock at Ayn and kicks him to the ground. Jolene went on to tell Ayn that he should be grateful that they put their lives on the line to keep him safe because he's worthless, and the only thing he's good for is picking up trash. Ayn, knowing that he has no other option, apologizes and thought to himself that the world really is unfair.
As he struggles to do his job, Zoid and Jolene kept making fun of him, totally disgusted by what he was doing. They simply can't believe how much of a trash appraised job is, as they watch him cut off the monster's teeth. "The only reason you're a member of my party is so I won't put disgusting monsters' parts in my bag, so we hired a trash picker," Zoid says mockingly, and Jolene laughs. Ayn, looking disheartened, didn't say anything but went on and carried his bags. He knew the only way to survive this world was being a trash picker, seeing that was the only thing he could do. Moments later, Zoid couldn't believe their eyes as they stumbled across a hellhound corpse. Then he immediately sends Aileen the trash picker to do his job and pick for parts. But Aileen is hesitant, as the guild's intel never mentioned a hellhound being on this low-level dungeon. Of course, Zoid doesn't listen, as he kicks Aizen to get on with it already. The two jerks kept laughing and talking about how they were going to spend the money later. So Aizen uses his appraise skill on the hound, and noticed that the monster was a B rank and would indeed fetch money. But to their surprise, Zoid saw that there was another hellhound corpse laying around, and he immediately sends the trash picker to collect it, but with fear in his eyes. Aizen freezes for a second as he tells Zoid that something isn't right and they should leave immediately, because the map which the guild had given was completely off. Zoid, being blinded by the money, decided to proceed and tells Aizen to go back if he wants to, but he should leave his packs behind, as he would not be getting anything. Aizen then thinks back to how no other party would take him because of his worthless job, has no other choice but to continue. The world is so unfair, Aizen thought to himself, and as they walked further into the dungeon, they stumbled into a bunch of hellhound corpses laying all over the ground. Of course something isn't right. Who would have defeated all these monsters, Ison said. But Zoid shuts him up. Suddenly a pack of hellhound emerges from the shadows, and it looks like the corpses on the ground was a result of the pack fighting over food. Even with Zoid and Jolene working together, they wouldn't be able to take one down and can't outrun the pack. With a sinister look on Zoid's face, he tells Jolene to cast a paralysis spell on Ison. Jolene, with the same look on her face, goes along with it and casted the spell. Jokingly, she tells Ison that the spell doesn't last long before it wears off, and if he was lucky, he could even get away. Then Zoid shouted, "Over here, you stupid dogs!" using Ison as bait as they escape from the dungeon. "Help, please, someone please help me," Icon cries helplessly from the ground. As the hounds feasted on him, attacking from all sides, biting his arm and legs, Icon screams in pain but then notices that the spell was wearing off due to the pain he's feeling. Quickly, he strikes the hounds with a rock and scattered the supplies in his bags to create a window of escape. As he limps with all that pain towards the exit, he was shocked to see that his treacherous teammates had already blocked the exit, but there was another passage. And as he takes it, struggling to keep himself alive, he then arrived at the end of the passage, which happens to be the edge of a cliff and the scene we saw at the beginning. With a bitter laugh, knowing there was no way to escape, Asane had to choose between the hounds that are closing in or the cliff. "This is all because I was born useless," Eilon says. As he slowly walks to the edge in that moment, he thought of how miserable he was treated by his teammates and others. With a relief smile on his face, he falls off the cliff and blames himself for not accomplishing anything in his life. Moments after Eileen wakes up in an unfamiliar place and as his vision cleared, a mysterious woman appeared and gave him a kiss on his forehead which healed him completely. Eileen opened his eyes, but the woman had disappeared without a trace. Surprised that he's still alive, he noticed that all his wounds were healed. But the reason for this remains a mystery. Looking around, he spotted a magic tree with walls of shiny waters. Curious, he used his appraise skill on the droplets of water, and the results leaves him speechless. It's a droplets from the legendary world tree. Appraising the tree itself confirms it. Hapreen couldn't believe his eyes, as it would seem that the legends are true. Long ago, the world tree supplied mana that people used to sustain magic and life, breathing mana into their bodies. Humans converted it to energy, which is all thanks to the tree. However, it was recorded in history that the tree weeded and vanished. Scholars theorized that other world trees might exist, but of course, no one has ever seen one or heard of its existence. Dreen realizes that the tree might have saved him. Bowing his head, he softly thanks the tree for giving him another chance. As he takes the steepness of the place, he hears a faint voice nearby. He looks around, but no one is there. With no monsters or threats nearby, it feels almost unnatural. But in the strange peace, Aline wonders what the future holds for him now as he thinks of his next move. He knows that Zoid and Jolene would never send help. With no other option, he thanks the tree one last time before moving forward. As he walks away, the mysterious girl from before reappears. Watching over him with concern, Ian quickly realizes that these areas are completely off the guild's map, as he fears there may be monsters stronger than the hellhounds lurking around. But Ian gathers himself, vowing to never limiting himself again after his near-death experience, with nothing but a rock in his hands. He cautiously makes his way through the dungeon. To his surprise, no monsters are around, giving him a brief relief. Now all he needs is to find a way out. But his nightmare isn't over, as something sliced off his ear and the pain is excruciating as he tries to grab it. But then his fingers were chopped off too. Panicking, Ein used his appraise skill and is terrified that his attacker is an S-rank monster. The beast wastes no time in slicing him again. Ein quickly learns that knowing his enemy's rank doesn't mean he can fight it. Durine desperately tries to escape, and just as the beast was about to finish him off, it suddenly stops and starts trembling. Ein watches in terror as the beast was completely crushed by a massive S-rank bear. The bear swaps at Ein, tearing through his face and taking out one of his eyes. Then it grabbed and starts to crush him. Nine, knowing this is the end and ready to accept death, out of nowhere, a mysterious boy arrives and saves him. Although the boy complains about being begged to save him and makes it clear that he wasn't doing this out of kindness. Before Ein could respond, he loses consciousness. When Ein wakes up, he's back by the world tree, and his ruined eye has been replaced, and all his wounds are healed. Still disoriented, he looks around and finally sees the mysterious girl from before up close. Her beauty leaves him speechless. As he compared her to a fairy tale elf, she smiles at him, and for the first time in a while, Ein feels a flicker of hope.